This is what my game looked like before, and this is what my game looks like right now. So what's happened? I've reworked all my maps. Not only are they much more zoomed out, but they look a lot different. Here's the game lobby, for example. You can now play football in it. Not to mention, it looks 10 times different. Here's the game lobby before, and here it is after. All of my maps are now unique with their own features. Some have big rolling spikes. Some have falling platforms. And some are a race to your death. And some are just basic with a good map structure and art. I've also made it so that the map gradually changes color over time to give some sort of tension to the game as it progresses. Anyways, here are all the 9 maps I have recently made. They're all now much bigger in size due to the zoom out. I did this because the bigger the map, then the more the chaos and space for the players to do whatever they want to do. There are a bunch of maps that I will be adding as time goes on. I'm looking to go as far as having like 100 maps in the whole entire game at some point in the future, so that the players never feel any sort of repetitiveness when playing. On top of it will just make the game much more fun for the players from the amount of options of maps they'll have. And I've also gathered many backgrounds for my next maps that I will be creating, and I'll be playing around with them very soon. Anyways, I have finally added an ability to a Stickman. Unfortunately, only the orange Stickman has this feature so far, because creating an ability for a character is extremely time consuming and probably the hardest task I've faced so far, because you have to create an animation for the Stickman upon casting the ability, then the ability animation itself, and before any of those you have to make the art for the ability. Making the cooldown for the ability and the visuals for it was definitely one of the hardest parts of the making. Adding sound to the ability upon using it, or the ability's sound when refreshed, were also a challenge. Also, basic things like making the ability spawn a particle upon hitting a player, or the ability disappearing upon hitting walls. The coding itself for this ability has already hit an extensive scale, and I'm not the best coder, you may know. So yeah, making an ability is a challenge, and I'll be adding in abilities slowly for the other characters. I'm already planning for the abilities for other characters. Take the black Stickman for example. The idea is that the black Stickman will have a blink towards the direction that he is facing, leaving behind a damage trail. Moving on, when the player takes damage, they now take knockback damage. So if you run into a spike now, or if you get hit by a player, players now have a new mechanic, which is the dash. This will enhance the gameplay, giving the players more skill-based combat with a new gap closing mechanic. Although if used wrong, then... Here is how the dash looks. Players can do this roughly once a second, and in any form, whether they are in the air or on the ground. Players now have an improved hit animation. Here's the before, and here's the after. The slash animation also now matches with the Stickman color and is no longer a bland white. For example, the blue Stickman now has a blue slash. The victory screen now works. Previously it didn't show the correct player, and the art of the Stickman was so I decided to change the Stickman stance to improve the feel of winning the game. Whenever a player dies, they will have a particle spawn to give it some sort of touch, making the death feel more impactful. I now have a slider above the character to show how long a power-up lasts, but this feature here is not fully polished. Whenever the player rotates, the slider does not rotate with the player, which is very abnormal because it shouldn't rotate at all and should be glued in one position, just like the hearts. So that's it. This is basically everything I've added in so far since the last video. There is so much more that I need to add in so that the game behaves and functions like a normal game. So far you can play this game and enjoy yourself with a few other people in local multiplayer, but the big dog has yet to be added in, multiplayer. I'll be working on this very soon, and it will be implemented in the next month or two as long as everything goes accordingly to plan. But apart from the big dog himself, there's other things that need to be added in, like improved animations to the Stickman. I've already started on this, so this will be very easy. More Stickman abilities, which I've also started on as well, like the black character mentioned earlier with the whole blink. Improving and adding sound UI and other general UI, and obviously bugs. But yeah, that's that. Stay tuned.